Hello again, and welcome to another one of my HTML5 The Basic Series episodes. In this one, I'm going to cover the link tag. And this one's going to be really short, so I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to create a HTML5 doc type, create some HTML tags, because I didn't pre-populate this one because it is just so terribly simple. I'm going to add my body tag. I'm going to add my head tag. Now, here's where we use the link tag. It's quite simple. Basically what we have here is we've got CSS style. The link tag is used to represent external files that you want to kind of include with your main page that you're working on. It's generally only used for CSS, but it technically has other uses. But honestly, if you're going to be, using some of those other uses, 9 out of 10, it's going to be better to use some kind of language like PHP or Ruby or whatever to include those files externally or through some other means. So the link tag is pretty much, I would say, limited to CSS styles because there's no real need to use it with anything else. But if you find the need to it does have the functionality. You might want to look up and see kind of what it supports. But anyways, the link tag here, we've got the Rel attribute, and the Rel attribute is just kind of like, what's it related to. So we're saying that the Rel equals style sheet, so we're going to be linking to a style sheet. And then type is going to be what's called the MIME type. I'm not going to explain the MIME type. I think there was another video where I basically said I'm not going to explain the MIME types. I'll eventually make a video explaining all about MIME types, how they work, and what you need to know about MIME types. But for the time being, it's probably best if you just Wikipedia it. It's simple enough information that looking up what MIME types actually are is just pretty straightforward. But the idea is that it's just kind of a text string that denotes what the file actually is. In this case, it's a text file / CSS. So it's a CSS file that is just text. And then we have the Href, which, as you know from links and other content and other usage of this attribute, Href just basically points to a URL or a website address or a local address or whatever to link to the file. And so in this case, we're saying theme.css. That's just going to assume that our theme.css is in the exact same folder that the file that we're currently editing on is in. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut this video right around here, and then I will throw in a CSS file and throw this in a folder so you guys can kind of see the befores and afters when I add and remove the CSS file. All right, so I finished up and I created just a very basic CSS file, and then I just threw in a p tag with some filler text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the link tag, and then I'm going to show you a preview of the site. Looks very straightforward, very simple, kind of the default style that we've been using most through the series. And then I'm going to switch back. I'm going to put that back in, and you'll see it's now inverted. I basically just created a CSS file that made the background black and the text white instead of the default black on white. I'd made white on black. And this basically just shows you that what's happening here is these files, if I click on the theme, you'll see here's my ultra simple CSS, but you'll see that it the effect is happening because of this link. We don't have to add a style tag, and I used to do this so much when I first started. It was so bad. And you could just basically put your CSS right in like this and do that. The problem is it's ugly. It puts everything in one file. So you have your HTML and your CSS, and then usually your JavaScript in one single file. It's just generally ugly. It's convoluted. You just generally don't want to do it. I'm saying generally a lot. Sorry. I'm generally saying generally. But the idea that I'm trying to get across is that it's so easy to do to include a CSS file externally. Always do it. There's no reason to have style like here or whatever. There's no reason to actually have a style tag. No reason whatsoever. The only few situations where you would use style is display none, and that is perfectly acceptable to have style display none. And of course that just makes it invisible, and it's usually you do that type of stuff for JavaScript so that you can have your JavaScript fade things in and out and do fancy wonderful web 2.0 types things. But for the majority of it, you're just going to want to make sure that all your styles are completely abstracted into a CSS file, and you can really organize your CSS files too. You don't have to do one file. You can do, a tons of them. Usually mine will kind of look like I'll have a reset, which kind of normalizes the CSS styles between different browsers. And then I'll have like a main, and then sometimes if I'm using like a model view controller type thing, which is a very advanced compared to what we're learning right now, but it's just sort of like a development paradigm. And I'll be able to say, like, if you're looking at like my list of books, I'll do like books.css, and if you're looking at it's going to have the sidebar, so maybe I'll have sidebar.css because I don't want main to be full of sidebar and footer type stuff. And so you can really break down your CSS and break down everything into really manageable pieces. You can find stuff easier doing this, and it doesn't clog up kind of your view, and it makes your life easier, especially in the long run. So that's the link tag. I said it was going to be short, but it ended up being a little longer just because I wanted to show you guys that kind of how the CSS reacts based on that. Bye.